We're going to start winning again. We're going to win so much. You're going to be so proud of your country. We're going to win so much. You're going to be so happy. You're going to have your jobs back. You're going to have your pride back. I often joke, you'll be calling up Mike Pence. I don't know whether he's going to be your governor or your vice president. Who the hell knows?
Donald Trump has promised that by the end of this week, he will announce his choice for a vice president. And while at this stage of the game, a selection like this often becomes the stuff of snarling competition by those seeking to be within a hair's breadth of the presidency, the Republican version right now is rather tame. Mostly because those who would normally be seen as drop-dead can't-miss choices are fleeing any connection to Trump at the speed of political light, which at the moment has left Trump and Republicans with what on the surface seems like a B team of choices. A Northeastern governor who was once given a fair shot at rising to the big chair himself and who is at the moment perhaps the most disliked state leader by his own citizens in any recent memory. A Midwestern governor that is also roundly disliked by people in his own party. So much so that every time the topic comes up of him possibly being the Veep, you can hear people in the background urging him on with something to the effect of, how fast can you clean out your desk? And a former Speaker of the House who, while leading a number of polls as the more solid choice, would, if selected, create a ticket featuring the oldest president and vice presidential candidates in American history. If, that is, he really wants the gig. Let's begin there from the second chair on both sides of the aisle. Let's dig deep into the political animal. Your phone calls we will get to. Get on the line right now. Be a part of the show. 1-877-Newsmax, 1-877-639-7629. Welcome in then the veteran columnist and senior contributor at the Federalist, where she has this political beat well under control, D.C. McAllister. D.C., good to talk to you again. So let's get started here. Let's see. Donald Trump's advisors are saying that Mike Pence is the guy you want. Reportedly, Donald Trump is saying, wait, Christie is the guy that I want. Reportedly, Newt Gingrich is still in there. All right, D.C., from your side then, who would make the best choice for Donald Trump?
Well, it's not surprising that Donald's kind of playing the hide-em game. He's not going to tell us what's up his sleeve. But I think he definitely knows who's going to be vice president. I would probably go with Newt Gingrich, I'm thinking. Mike Pence will pull in a lot of conservatives, which is what Donald Trump really needs right now. He needs to rally the base, and he needs someone who's not going to be highly offensive to independents, but he needs someone who can be solid on policy, solid on national security, someone who is more grounded in dealing with Congress, which would be better for Newt Gingrich. And Newt Gingrich is really that person who is the more balanced across the board of what he needs. His big problem, as you mentioned, is it would be an older, white male ticket, and so that's going to fly in the face of the identity politics that you normally hear. A lot of buzz was going on early on that he needed a woman VP pick. That doesn't look like it's going to happen. Maybe it's because he just doesn't have it, or he just doesn't think he needs it. I think he thinks if he can rally the base and inspire them that he can beat Hillary Clinton.
What about those who say that one of the criticisms here is that Donald Trump has done it his way? Look, he said right from the start that he doesn't want anything to do with anything that's Washington, D.C. But what I said in the open here, this is a time when you get to the conventions, when you have the next great stars of your party that are sitting there waiting. They can't wait to get in front of the crowd. They're the ones who want to speak, and they're the ones that may even become the right presidential choice. Look, we've seen mistakes made, but there are those people saying that Donald Trump has alienated that group right now, and that's going to hurt him no matter what he says. What do you think?
He has alienated them. I mean, he has attacked the establishment from the get-go. But we have to remember how Donald Trump came into being in the Republican Party. He came to being because people were very angry about establishment politicians and what they were doing. And he is the candidate for this time because they felt betrayed. The voters felt betrayed by politicians in D.C. So is it really a bother to the Republican voters that the establishment doesn't show up to the Republican convention? For many, they don't want them there. So it's better for them not to be there. But he doesn't want a full-fledged revolt from conservatives, the anti-establishment conservatives. This is why Ted Cruz is very important, because he's also outside of the establishment wing. But he needs those conservatives to make this election happen.
Okay, I think you just answered something there. I want to make sure I get to this. You're talking about the difference between establishment and non-establishment. But isn't it fair to say that Newt Gingrich, Mike Pence, Christie, they are the establishment, but he's got to have them because in the same breath, you still got to be able to work inside the machine. If you don't have somebody who understands the machine and you put somebody in there who's completely outside, two outsiders never work. You're basically going to be screwed in D.C. from the minute you step in.
I agree. That's why you need to find someone who is very familiar with policy, knows how to work for Congress, and knows how to get things done, but yet who has a foot in the outside world, who understands Tea Partiers, who understands conservatives, who insiders don't always like. But yet that Newt Gingrich is good with that one because he isn't always the big conservative insider guy, but he is also loved by a lot of insiders because he helped them make their careers. So he's a good pick as far as working with Congress, but still being that guy who's been outside of it for long enough to have an eye to, criticize the insiders.
You still got to be able to work under the table in Washington, D.C. Let's face it. You can't do everything up front. You got to be able to cut the deals.
And Gingrich can do that. I mean, and he's done that with the Clintons in the past.
Exactly. 1-877-Newsmax. Gene is in Long Island, New York. Gene, you believe that Newt Gingrich will be Trump's vice president. 30 seconds. Tell us exactly why he's the right guy.
Hello?
Yes, hello. Go ahead.
Hello?
Gene, you have 30 seconds. Tell us why you think Newt Gingrich will be Donald Trump's best choice for vice president.
Well, because of first of all, he was with the contract with America. He knows how to handle the Congress, and what the McAllister is saying is everything is true about what she said is true about Newt.
And not only that, but Newt Gingrich is a guy who can make the case against Hillary Clinton to the American people. That will be important as well. Thanks so much for your phone call here. Let's move on to something else. Hang on for your phone calls here at 1-877-Newsmax because we're going to hit a bunch of stuff here, and D.C. will stay with us after the break. So we've got to get to something else here. Let's go on to Ruth Bader Ginsburg's comments about Donald Trump, D.C. And you're shaking your head already. Alan Dershowitz has shaken his head. So have so many other people. Look, for those who don't remember or haven't heard it yet, here's just a brief reminder what she said. She called him a faker. He has no consistency. Whatever comes into his head at the moment, meaning Donald Trump. Has an ego. Hasn't turned over his tax returns. The press is going gentle with him on it. Wait a minute, DC. I'm going to take a different take here for a second. Ruth Bader Ginsburg is as hard a liberal as you could possibly have. I mean, she's shown no predilection whatsoever to be anything but the left. She votes liberal. She is a liberal. She doesn't like anything that conservatives do. Why should we be so shocked that she said something like this? Granted, it's wrong. And you shouldn't say that if you're a judge, but why should we be so upset here?
And now she's showing what's wrong with liberals these days. They don't respect separation of powers. And there is a U.S. code of conduct for judges that they are not to comment on candidates for political office. So she's violated that. She's just thrown it to the wind. It really doesn't matter. She can overstep her bounds as a Supreme Court justice to comment on the political process. And that's completely inappropriate. And I think it's actually going to fall in Donald Trump's favor for her doing this.
All right, here comes another VP choice here. Ray is in Apple Valley, California. Ray, you believe Ben Carson should be vice president. 30 seconds. Why?
Well, first of all, he's a strong supporter of Trump. He was one of the first ones, one of the second one to come out in support of Trump. I think he supports all of what Trump is trying to do. He's a low-profile guy that's a good speaker. He could give him the support that Trump
But
needs.
he's not powerful enough. Here's the deal. He's not powerful enough to know how to work within the D.C. Beltway. Don't you have to have somebody who can do that?
That's one good thing about Trump. He knows how to work. He knows how to make a deal. He knows how to work with it. Trump's going to have his allies in Congress that are going to run to him. Believe me, Carson, in my choice, would be the best pick that he could possibly make and divide and help that racial divide.
All right. There you go.
From the beginning, and I still think it's going to happen.
I don't think it's going to happen, but we appreciate the call anyway, and at least the idea here. 60 seconds left, D.C. Hillary Clinton's lead over Donald Trump is now down to 3 points in a new McClatchy-Marist poll. We see a couple of other polls here that say they're neck and neck in some of the battleground states at this point. But, okay, D.C. is one of my favorite moments where I love to dig into polls here. This is July. It is great news for Donald Trump that he is getting this close to Hillary Clinton, but we got a long way to go. He's got to hang on to this, D.C.
It's always good not to be falling, and he's not falling. She is.
Right.
So that's good news, even at this stage. And also, the battleground states are what matters. It's not really the national polls. You want to look at those battleground states like Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Florida. And in Florida, that's a biggie. She was up by like 11 points a week ago, and now she's down to him like 3 points. So or even more than that, she is dropping big in Florida, and that's a huge thing. It could also play to a trend that will go on for months. And the big problem is the trustworthy factor. According to polling, they don't want her because they don't trust her. They have problems with Donald Trump, but in all those battleground states, polling says they trust her less. They just do not trust her compared to Donald Trump.
It still is coming down to what a friend of mine said the other day. He said it's coming out to November, and you got to hold your nose one way or the other, but you can't. And he's a Republican. He says we can't let Hillary take the White House. That's what it comes down to. D.C. McAllister will stay through the break. We're going to shift to the GOP platform and what it says about the relationship between the RNC and Donald Trump. Platform news coming up. Your phone calls as well. We can't do without them. Got to have them involved here. 1-877-Newsmax coming back on the hard line. All right, back to work with a reminder, we cannot do this without your phone calls and your opinions. The only TV news network that makes you a part of the conversation every show, every day. Get on the line right now, 1-877-Newsmax, 1-877-639-7629. Stay on point. Talk about what we're talking about here right now. You got a better chance of getting up to the front of the line. We'll get your opinion. Welcome back. Senior contributor at the Federalist, D.C. McAllister. All right, D.C., here we go. We're getting ready for the Republican National Convention next week. We do not have an official platform yet, but pieces of it are starting to leak out. This is what we've been able to put together thus far from various sources. This one came from the New York Times, the proposed platform, declaring pornography a public health crisis, encouraging teaching a Bible in public schools, approval of conversion therapy for gays, building a wall that must cover the entirety of the southern border, coal they are terming a clean, reliable domestic energy resource, and also barring military women from combat. Is it not fair to say that the Republican National Committee is buying into what Donald Trump has been selling the public for a long time now, for over a year, because much of this almost comes right from the lips of Donald Trump?
About half of it, I would say. It is definitely moving right. But remember, Donald Trump is pretty liberal on social issues. And in this platform that we're getting reports about, it's very far to the right. So the social conservatives seem to have a hold there in developing the platform, and that's not in line entirely with Donald Trump. Now with immigration, definitely. That's Trump. When it comes to trade, definitely Trump's influence there. But you don't have his influence on every bit, because he was sympathetic to bathroom transgender issues in North Carolina. He often praises same-sex marriage. He has in the past, and we all know about his past with abortion. It has changed, but again, he's new to that issue. So I wouldn't really say this is a complete bow to Donald Trump.
Well, not a complete bow, but let's put not a complete bow, but let's put it this way then. Let's get your opinion on this. How is this going to play? Because Donald Trump has come out and said, I'm the nominee, I'm the person in charge. But here you have some things here that even you've indicated and others have indicated that he may not agree with. This seems like it's setting up a bit of a fight.
I don't think so. If he's going to let it go, if he plays it smart, remember, he needs to rally the base. He needs those conservatives. If he just lets it go, keeps his hands off of it to a degree, his big issue, the biggest one that he's been pushing from day one, is immigration, and that's in there. And so I think that's what he cares about the most. And as long as that's in there, he's going to be happy. And as long as the other things are moving right, his base will be happy. So I actually think this might work for everybody.
As we continue to talk about this, I want to make sure folks get on the line right now, 1-877-Newsmax, and tell us what you think about these proposals for the Republican platform. And I say that, D.C., because you mentioned it, I think you briefly mentioned it, but a lot of people are saying that this is far right. And there's even a lot of people who are conservatives who are saying this may go too far right for a lot of people, all of these different things, and this may alienate some of the conservatives. Do you believe in that? And then how do you make those conservatives happy?
Well, about far right, I mean, I think the Bible references, probably they could do without that. Not that there's anything against that, but I mean, soften that language. But holding on to family values as far as marriage and rights for homosexuals and how that actually plays out in policy, that is right. I guess it depends on who you ask. I mean, to a liberal, it's far, far, far right. To some conservatives, it's like it's not far enough. So as long as it gives a nod to those social conservatives, I think you might make Donald Trump more sympathetic. Because remember, they're very concerned about him being a liberal. So if in the party platform it's not so liberal, they might go, well, maybe he's not so much, and that'll help him. It will not help him with millennials who are more liberal, but it will help him with his base.
Do you see that then as a calculated risk, if you will, because this way, putting the platform like this, Donald Trump has got to live with this platform. This would then take out a lot of the people who say that he is nothing more than a liberal posing as a conservative, if you will. That's one side of this, a very calculated risk. But then what about the fact that there are those out there, most of them on the left, who say that America is moving closer to the middle, and this is not where the GOP wants to go right now?
I mean, that's the case they're going to make. I mean, they're going to say that we need to be moving progressively left. And that's the war and the cultural war that we have right now. And we're going to really see in this election where that stands to some degree. And, it's just a matter of how they're going to push this. I mean, the platform usually isn't talked about that much after the convention, unless something really weird or profound or extreme happens. And I'm sure Hillary Clinton will use this to rally the millennial vote, which she isn't doing that great with. And, it'll just be interesting to see how that plays, because he will need that base and the conservative base to beat her. And I think this will help.
All right, so there's the question. 1-877-Newsmax. What do you, the viewer, the person watching right now, the person who will cast a vote in November, what is your opinion of this proposed Republican platform? We're going to make sure we keep saying it's proposed here, because nothing is official until next week. 1-877-Newsmax. Timothy's in Pottersville, New York. Tim, you like the fact that the border wall made it into the GOP platform, but what about the rest of it? What do you think?
It's Harpersville, New York. I believe that Donald Trump has got it right to build the wall down on the southern side.
We get that, but what do you think about the rest? And let's go ahead. Guys in the control room, if we could, let's go ahead and put that full screen up once again, because this is what we're getting here right now. And Timothy, I want you to look at the screen right now if you can and tell us, what do you think about this proposed platform for the Republicans in 2016?
I don't think the Republicans are going to do anything anyway, because they haven't done anything in 8 years. And every time they something's put up to them, they do not do anything.
All right, Tim, thanks so much for your call. D.C., isn't that the point right here? We talk about platform. Platforms don't usually become a big deal anyway. They're nice, they're out there, people talk about them. But this is not a platform-driven election here right now. So is it very possible to say that you can put things out there that some Republicans may disagree with, but in the end, they simply will come back at you and say, we don't want Hillary in the White House. You can put whatever you want up there right now, and we'll be happy with it.
No, it really is about messaging at this point, and that's where I'm saying that it can help, at least right now, and as far as the messaging, as far as rallying the base, saying, we're putting this in the platform. It doesn't mean it's going to be promised in policy or anything like that, or even if it will sustain through the years, but it will show that we're committed. The Republican Party is not being changed by Donald Trump. It's the same, because these are the things that have been talked about and people are worried about in this election. And this is just a good message to the voters that they want to turn out in the Republican Party to say it's okay. He's not going to turn the Republican Party into a liberal mess. And, whether you believe that that won't happen or whether the Republicans will actually have the strength to maintain that conservative agenda is a question that we can talk about, but it's good messaging at this point.
1-877-Newsmax. Harlan is in Columbus, Ohio. Harlan, you like the platform, but you don't think some of it will get passed. Well, it is fair to say that this is proposed at this point. What don't you like about it, Harlan?
Well, I like all of it, and quite frankly, I agree totally with it. I just think that for the general public, it probably won't be palatable. I myself am a Christian, and I believe very deeply that we've taken a lot of the Christian values out of our country, and I like the idea of putting biblical concepts back in school, but I think there'll just be a tremendous backlash on that, unfortunately. However, if you take a good, hard look at that whole platform, it was never a better time to try and move things back as far as they can to the right, and hopefully we'll end up someplace in the middle when it's all said and done.
All right, Harlan, thanks so much for your call. Before we move on to something else, I want to get one call in here that's been waiting here, D.C., because this comes around to the VP choice again. Here's Dale in Newport, Rhode Island. Dale, you also think Ben Carson should be the vice president. I think it's a great idea, Dale, and I think we can talk about it, but it's not going to happen. He's not even under consideration.
I don't know. Maybe he is, and he's just not letting the people know right now.
be a big surprise, because he said there's going to be a surprise at the convention, and that may be one of his big surprises. He may be holding back, and then he should put like maybe Christie take Lynch's place would be ideal spot for Christie, and he should show his cabinet. He already told who he wanted for Supreme Court justices. So that would be strong if he came out that way.
Okay, let's do this. D.C., we only got about a minute left here. Let's take what was said here maybe as gospel, if you will. Maybe there is a surprise coming here. If there was a surprise, I mean, we've already talked about Pence, we've talked about Christie, and we've talked about the possibility of Newt Gingrich. Who would be a surprise, though? Could you see anybody else sneaking in here? I think those three are pretty solid.
Yeah, I think they're solid at this point. I don't think it's going to be Ben Carson, but what you're hearing in that is people wanting trust, that trust factor. They still like that, and that's something to play in this election. I don't know, a good sneaker would be Joni Ernst to get the women's vote.
Isn't that still something of a bit of a concern, D.C., because I've talked to some Republican women who are still very unhappy that there wasn't a bigger push made to put a woman on the ticket. 30 seconds.
Republican women might be satisfied with a woman on the ticket. It's not going to bring any independents and liberals. Republican women on tickets are skewered. They might as well not be women. But if that's what Republican women are holding out for, I don't think it's going to happen, but he may sneak her in if you're looking for something surprising.
And I think it's a well point, too, because if you look at some of the polls that are out here today, you're seeing, according to some of the polls, that some of those independents are starting to drift a little bit towards Donald Trump. So you are right.
They are. Mm-hmm.
You can't win an election unless you go after the independents, and you get some of them, you get the majority of them. You've got to have them. That's going to be big for Trump as well. D.C. McAllister, always a pleasure. Thanks a lot for sticking around with us for a little longer time. We'll do it again soon. Republican conventions in history and the notable lack of those seeking to audition for 2020 and beyond. That, we'll try and sneak in a few more calls next on The Hardline.